Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're really strapping ourselves in for something, well, a bit different. We're looking at a fascinating mix of sources.
Yeah, it's quite the spread. We've got ancient philosophy, specifically Stoicism,
Hmm.
rubbing shoulders with high-stakes poker strategy, some really cutting-edge tech, and even hard-nosed capital management.
Exactly. On the surface, it looks like, maybe a random collection, but there's a thread, right? A specific way of thinking that ties it all together.
That's the core of it. We're digging into materials from a new book release, some tech reviews, detailed poker hand breakdowns, and even a finance lecture. What emerges is this strategic mindset.
A mindset rooted in Stoicism, applied across the board. So our mission today isn't just to recap these things, it's to pull out that unified framework.
We want to show you, the listener, how things like discipline, humility, managing your ego, controlling emotions, how they connect. Whether you're deciding to fold a poker hand or thinking about, say, huge market risks.
It really is a masterclass in how to think, not just what to think. So where do we start?
Well, you have to start with the foundation, right? The internal stuff,
Right.
the philosophical bedrock. That's where the discipline really begins.
Okay, so let's dive into that. The trigger here seems to be a big milestone for our source author, the release of their fifth book, The Way of the Stoic Diamond.
Yeah, and not just released, but immediately out in 3 languages: French, English, and German.
Hmm.
That's a statement itself.
It signals a real commitment, doesn't it? Making these ideas accessible globally.
It's a huge production feat.
Yeah.
But honestly, what really grabbed me wasn't just the scale, but the author's comments on the process, especially the language choice.
Yeah, I noticed that too. He emphasizes French as his native literary language,
Nah.
but not just because it's familiar. He actually talks about appreciating its Latin structure
Yeah.
and its poetic difficulty.
Which is counterintuitive, right? Most people want easier communication, not harder.
Exactly. Why choose difficulty?
Well, this is where that Stoic angle really shines through. He has this quote, something like, "The difficulty makes it beautiful. Just like in poetry, the constraints elevate the outcome."
Okay, hang on. Constraints elevate the outcome.
Think about it. The constraints aren't seen as limitations, but as necessary structures, like the rules of a sonnet, maybe. Mastering them forces a higher level of craft, a better result.
So wrestling with French grammar isn't just a pain, it's a tool. It forces precision, forces you to really crystallize complex thoughts.
Precisely. It reminds me a bit of, GTO play in poker. Operating within strict mathematical constraints to get the optimal, most robust result.
That makes sense. And this whole idea of embracing difficulty, it sets up the book's title nicely, doesn't it? The Way of the Stoic Diamond.
Yeah.
It invokes that ancient Greek idea, the daemon.
Right, the daemon. We should probably clarify that for listeners. It's not demon in the modern sense at all.
No, definitely not. What is it in that Socratic Stoic context?
It's like your inner compass, your guiding reason. Socrates talked about his daimonion, that inner voice that held him back from mistakes. It's your rational faculty, the part of you striving for virtue, for logical consistency.
So the diamond part of the title suggests this inner logic is something forged, like under pressure.
Exactly. Human nature is messy, right? The diamond is that inner reason compressed, hardened by discipline, by rational self-examination. Following the path of the daemon means constantly testing your thoughts and actions against reason.
Okay, so philosophy isn't just reading old books, it's actively calibrating that internal system. How does the author connect this to the act of writing itself? Because he calls writing painful but meaningful.
Well, writing, especially about philosophy or deep personal strategy, it forces you to confront yourself. You put your thoughts down, commit them to the page.
And suddenly all the gaps and contradictions jump out at you.
Oh, absolutely. It exposes fuzzy thinking, hypocrisy, everything. It demands really deep, sometimes uncomfortable introspection. The pain isn't just writer's block. It's the pain of self-confrontation, of aligning your stated beliefs with reality.
So the discipline needed to finish a demanding book, that's stoic practice in action, enduring that discomfort for a higher purpose.
Totally. You're enduring the pain of self-correction, of refinement. When he says writing is meaningful, it's because the outcome isn't just a book for others. It's a solidified version of his own understanding, his own philosophy. He's literally shaping his daemon.
And the difficulty, like the choice of French, ensures the result is robust, valuable.
Exactly. It all ties back. You can't have a reliable external strategy, whether in poker, finance, whatever, if that internal foundation, that daemon, isn't solid, isn't rigorously tested.
Right. Okay, that's a powerful starting point, this idea of rigorous internal work. Now, how does this translate outward? If the mind needs to be a controlled space, what about the external world? This brings us to technology.
Yeah, it's a great pivot. From the internal struggle to external tools designed to help manage that same focus. The link here is pretty direct, actually. If the goal is maximizing rational thought and minimizing unproductive distraction, then technology can be an ally. It can aid that stoic focus.
And the specific tech discussed in the sources is these new augmented reality AR glasses.
No,
But not for gaming, right? They're framed as a serious productivity tool.
exactly. A portable, immersive PC setup. The core feature highlighted is projecting 3 giant virtual screens in front of your eyes, wherever you are.
So it's like taking your ideal multi-monitor desk setup on the road.
Pretty much. Imagine having that kind of organized digital workspace, but you could be on a train, in a cafe, anywhere. It's tech designed for deep work, for handling complex information visual.
And the strategic goal is obvious, minimizing real-world distraction.
Right. Think back to the Stoic idea. Distinguish what you control, your thoughts, efforts, from what you don't. Noise, interruptions. These glasses are like a physical attempt to enforce that boundary.
By visually overriding your surroundings, creating a consistent mental workspace.
Yeah. Even if you're in a chaotic environment, you can, in theory, maintain this bubble of focused digital space. It helps manage the external chaos that can derail internal focus.
That idea of carrying your focus environment with you, that makes you less fragile, right? Less dependent on perfect conditions.
Definitely. And the sources mention other specific tech aids too, like using Natural Reader for audiobook syncing.
How does that help focus?
It pairs listening to the text with seeing it simultaneously. Apparently, this dual input auditory and visual significantly boosts comprehension and retention. It's not just about speed, it's about deeper learning, efficiency in absorbing information.
Okay, but let me push back a bit here. Isn't creating this total visual bubble potentially, well, unstoic? Doesn't stoicism value being present and aware?
That's a fair point.
Yeah.
But I think the application here is key. It's for specific, focused work sessions. The philosophy isn't against concentration, it's against being distracted from your chosen purpose.
So if your purpose is deep analysis or writing, then blocking out distractions is actually a disciplined act.
I think so. It's like a modern version of a monk retreating to a cell to meditate or study. It's an intentional, temporary withdrawal to achieve a specific, high-value output. The glass has become a portable, focused cell.
Okay, that reframes it. It's a tool for purpose. Which brings us to the limitations, because the source material is very upfront about the fact that technology isn't a magic bullet. There are real-world constraints.
And acknowledging those is crucial for maintaining that rational outlook. You have to accept the imperfections. The sources list some pretty significant practical issues.
Like, no banking app support. That seems like a big one for anyone dealing with finance.
Yeah, apparently due to Android security restrictions on the platform these glasses use. So for quick, secure financial transactions, this setup has a major blind spot.
Then there was the keyboard mapping issue, specifically no Swiss French layout support.
Yeah.
Sounds minor, but
But if you rely on muscle memory and speed for typing in a specific layout, constantly fighting the keyboard kills any productivity gain. It becomes a source of friction, not flow.
and probably the most relevant limitation for where we're going next. Some key software just doesn't run on them, like Poker Tracker on Android.
Right. So the very analysis tools you might need for deep strategic work, like in poker, can't be integrated into this otherwise optimized environment.
So the takeaway is, wow, technology helps, but it's not perfect.
Pretty much. It's about managing the tool rationally. We control the choice to use it and our intentions, but we have to accept the external limitations, the constraints. It's great for some tasks, like focused reading or writing, but it's a compromise for others.
A tool to be managed, not a seamless solution. That's actually a perfect bridge, philosophically speaking. Accepting constraints, which leads us straight into the world of poker.
Exactly. The ultimate testing ground where constraints like probability and psychology are absolutely everything.
All right, let's step into the poker lab. This is where all that internal discipline, that honed Daimon, gets put to the test. Under pressure, with real money on the line.
Poker really is a fantastic microcosm for life strategy, isn't it?
Hmm.
Over the long run, luck cancels out. All that's left is the quality of your decisions, and the sources highlight a really vital concept here, the gradation of mistakes.
Meaning not all mistakes are created equal, that they're layered.
Exactly. It's not just about if you made a mistake, but how bad it was. What's its impact on your overall goal? which is usually staying in the game long enough for your skill edge to matter.
Can you break that down with the example they use, the contrast between different error types?
Sure. So making a small error early on, like maybe calling with a marginal hand when a fold was slightly better, that's a minor leak. It costs you a little bit of expected value or EV, but you're still playing, still have chips.
Okay, a small leak. What's the other end of the spectrum?
The catastrophic mistake, the game ender. The source contrasts that small leak with shoving all in and going broke with a weak hand that actually has very little chance of winning against your opponent's likely holdings.
Even if mathematically the shove wasn't that much worse than folding.
It might be only slightly worse in pure EV terms for that specific hand, but the consequence is catastrophic.
Mm.
It ends your game.
Yeah.
You lose all opportunity to make future plus EV decisions. That's the crucial difference.
So strategy isn't about playing perfectly, nobody does that, but about ruthlessly avoiding those big game-ending blunders. Capital preservation first.
Absolutely. Manage your variance exposure. Avoid ruin. This comes through in the specific tactical examples discussed too, like knowing where to draw that line in the sand.
Let's look at opening and folding strategy. They mention the discipline of folding pocket sevens to a 3-bet. Now, to a beginner, pocket sevens feels pretty strong. Why fold?
It comes down to reverse implied odds, mostly. When someone 3-bets you, especially in certain positions, their range of hands is usually very strong, big pairs. Ace-king, maybe ace-queen.
Okay, so they're strong. How does that hurt sevens?
Well, sevens really only want to hit a third seven on the flop. That happens only about 12% of the time. If you do hit it, great. You might win a big pot. But the other 88% of the time.
You've got an underpair to their likely overpair, or you completely miss the flop.
Exactly. And you're often facing a continuation bet. You either have to fold, then losing your initial investment, or call and be in a really tough spot, often dominated. You risk a lot for a rare big payoff and bleed chips the rest of the time. It's hard to realize your equity.
That difficulty in realizing equity, does that apply to the 10-4 suited hand they mentioned? They said fold it even though it's suited.
Oh yeah, 10-4 suited is classic fool's gold. Looks pretty, but plays terribly.
Why? Suited connectors are good.
Suited connectors are good. 10-4 isn't connected. It has a big gap. It makes very few straights. And when it makes a flush, it's often a low one that can be beaten by higher flushes. When it makes a pair, the kicker is awful. It's just dominated too often.
So the discipline here is defining that line in the sand beforehand. Knowing which marginal hands are playable in which positions based on math, not just feel.
Yes. Using game theory optimal principles as a baseline, the line has to be mathematical, unemotional. Which brings us to maybe the most critical concept for anyone dealing with risk, the difference between outs and actual equity.
Okay, let's really nail this one. What's the difference? They sound similar.
They do, but they're worlds apart. Outs are just potential cards that could improve your hand. You have 4 hearts, need 1 more for a flush. You have 9 hearts left in the deck, so 9 outs. That's the simple count.
That sounds like optimistic counting.
It is optimistic counting, because actual equity is your real probability of winning against the specific range of hands your opponent likely holds, given the betting action.
Okay. So, my 9 hard outs, they don't count if the way my opponent is betting strongly suggests they already have, say, a full house or a better flush draw.
Exactly. If hitting your heart also pairs the board, maybe giving your opponent a boat, then that hard out might actually be worthless or even detrimental. You have to filter your potential through their reality.
Improving your hand is pointless if it doesn't beat what they likely have.
Precisely, which is shown perfectly in that case study. King 6 offsuit, the classic dilemma.
Top pair on the flop, king high. Feels good. But the kicker, the 6, is weak.
Yeah, it's the hand that looks strong but loves to lower medium pots. Any other king with a better kicker, king queen, king jack, ace king, has you crushed.
And the strategic choice was bet out strong or check, the strategic delay.
Right, betting out is aggressive, builds the pot, but with a vulnerable hand like K6, it's risky. You might get raised and have no idea where you stand, or just bloat the pot for when you're beaten.
Whereas checking.
Checking is defensive. It keeps the pot small initially. Crucially, it lets you see what your opponent does. Do they check back? Bet small, bet big. Their action gives you information about their likely hand strength before you commit more chips.
Information gathering. And the outcome in the case study.
The player checked. The opponent bet strongly later in the hand, and it became clear the king 6 was very likely no good against flushes or better kings. The player had to fold, saving chips.
And the lesson learned.
The big one. Outs are not truths. They are guesses. You can't base decisions on hope or potential alone. You need evidence from the opponent's actions.
That requires incredible emotional control, especially when you lose. Which brings us to the Stoic mentality in loss. How do you handle losing a massive pot, maybe even through bad luck, without tilting?
That's where the internal work, the Daimon, pays dividends. If you let a bad beat trigger anger or frustration tilt, you sabotage your future decisions. You destroy your long-term edge.
So you practice emotional detachment.
You have to. Recognize the outcome of the cards is external, uncontrollable. Frame every loss, especially the painful ones, immediately as a learning opportunity. What could I have done differently? Did I assess their range correctly? Was my bet sizing optimal?
It's like investing in future you. The sources mention using mental tricks, almost like mantras. Thank you for this learning opportunity, or just genuinely saying, nice hand to the opponent.
These aren't just social niceties. They are active psychological resets. They stop the negative emotions, resentment, anger, feeling cheated from taking hold. You're controlling your reaction, which is the only thing you truly control.
That disciplined mindset, that rigorous risk management, it feels directly transferable, doesn't it, as we scale up from a single poker tournament?
Absolutely. Let's make that leap now.
Yeah.
From the poker table to managing much larger sums over much longer time horizons. The transition feels natural because the core principle is the same. Bankroll management. It's just applied on a vastly different scale with different variables. It's always about surviving variance.
So in poker, the rule is super strict, right?
Gospel. Never risk more than, say, 1% or 2% of your total bankroll on a single tournament or cash game session. Got $10? You play small stakes. This ensures that inevitable downswings don't bankrupt you before your skill edge shows up over time.
Keeps you in the game. But when you move to financial markets, investing, trading, that simple 1-2% rule gets blurry.
It does. The environment's more complex. You've got compounding, changing your capital base daily.
Yeah.
You've got inflation silently eating away at value. You've got liquidity. Sometimes you can't just instantly fold a large stock position like you can a poker hand.
So you can't just apply a fixed percentage rule to every trade.
Not easily. The focus shifts more towards diversification and managing exposure to truly catastrophic risks, the ones that can wipe you out entirely.
And over a long time frame, say 50 years, the biggest risk isn't just a market dip, is it?
No, it's the inevitability of black swans. The sources really hammer this home. Those huge, unpredictable, game-changing events, wars, pandemics, financial system collapses, technological disruptions, they will happen over a multi-decade horizon. They aren't rare possibilities, they're near certainties eventually.
So your long-term strategy must account for surviving those, not just normal volatility.
Exactly. Which leads to the solution. Broad diversification across assets that hopefully don't all crash at the same time. Non-correlated assets.
And the examples given were things like crypto, precious metals like gold and bonds.
Yeah. The idea is that they behave differently in different crises. Crypto might offer an alternative if fiat currencies falter. Gold is the traditional inflation crisis hedge. High-quality bonds might hold up in deflationary scares. You're building resilience, not necessarily maximizing short-term gains. Survival first.
This comes back to behavior again, doesn't it? The temptation to go all in for maximum profit versus playing the long game, ego versus consistency.
The ego loves the story of the big win, the 100x return, being number one. But chasing that often means taking mathematically unsound risks.
Which leads to that provocative quote, the person who wins a tournament is often the king of the dummies. Ouch. What's the strategic truth behind that?
It sounds harsh, but think about it probabilistically. To win a large shield tournament often requires winning several key all-ins where you might have been mathematically behind. Variance, pure luck, smiled on the risk taker this time.
So they won despite playing unsustainably.
Often, yes. They took huge risks that happened to pay off in that single instance. But that risk profile, repeated over time, leads to ruin eventually. They aren't the strategic ideal, even though they hold the trophy today.
So if winning isn't always the smart goal, what is?
Consistent high performance. Finishing second place consistently, or regularly making final tables, is far more variable long-term than one lucky huge win followed by busts.
It maximizes your sustainable edge, protects capital, avoids those catastrophic layered mistakes. It's about viability.
Exactly, which circles back to the philosophical point.
Yeah.
What's the ultimate payoff for all this discipline, if it's not just about getting rich?
Right. The sources touch on the definition of true wealth. They mention that observation about happiness.
Yeah, the idea that going from, say, $30K a year to $100 makes a big difference in well-being. But going from $100K to, say, $5 million, the happiness increase might be minimal or even non-existent. Diminishing marginal utility kicks in hard.
So once your basic needs and security are covered, just piling up more luxury doesn't necessarily buy more happiness. It can become a trap.
A behavioral trap,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
So what is the ultimate goal of a rational, Stoic-inspired financial or life strategy?
According to the sources, it's not luxury. It's not being top dog.
No. The ultimate goal, the real return on investment for all the discipline, the risk management, the self-control, is autonomy.
Autonomy, the freedom to choose, control over your time, where you are, what you work on, without being forced by financial need or external pressures.
That's the highest yield.
Hmm.
The financial strategy becomes about allocating assets not just for growth, but for maximum freedom, maximum control over your own life. That's the diamond forged by the Daimon. Hashtag tag outro.
Wow. Okay, so this deep dive really pulled it together. It shows there isn't really a gap between, say, philosophy and poker strategy or tech and finance. It's all connected by this core mindset.
Yeah, the integration is key. That mix of Stoic philosophy, practical risk management, bankroll discipline, mistake management, and a healthy dose of humility. It really is a masterclass in rational thinking.
The same kind of rigorous self-assessment needed to write that book is exactly what's needed to make a tough fold at the poker table.
It's about aiming for survival and consistency, understanding your real position, not just chasing flashy wins.
Yeah.
And, we circle back to that poker insight. Outs are not truths, they are guesses.
Yeah.
That applies way beyond cards.
How so? Thinking about life decisions.
Yeah. Think about any big choice you're facing. Starting a business, buying a house, changing careers. You have your hopes, your list of potential positive outcomes, your outs. You see the best case scenario.
Naturally. We focus on the upside.
But the real strategic question, the Stoic question, is what's your actual equity? If you strip away the optimism, look hard at the constraints, the probabilities, the potential downsides suggested by reality. What are your real chances of success?
In life, like in poker, knowing what seems possible is easy. Believing the dream.
But knowing what's truly probable and having the discipline to act on that colder reality, that's where genuine strategic autonomy starts. That's the challenge for all of us. Go find your actual equity.
A powerful thought to end on. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dives.
See you next time.
Welcome. I'm meeting my poker teacher. In a couple of minutes, we are going to look, as usual, at some hands I played. We're going to have a discussion on several topics, even the topics I'll introduce right now. I have great news because I've managed to publish my 5th book. 2 of my books are edited, my 4th book and my 5th book. But I didn't have time to edit the first 3 books, so you should not buy the first 3 books because they aren't edited. The last 2 are. I've managed to publish it recently, like yesterday. This is huge. I'll enjoy it a lot because not just did I publish it, my 5th book, but I did translate it in 3 languages. I always write in French because that's the language I'm the most at ease in. It's also the literary language of the world. In the past, everything that had some little purpose or diplomatic purpose was written in French. French is a very beautiful language because it has strong Latin roots. It's an extremely hard language to write and to learn. It's one of the most difficult languages you can use. English is much easier, much more straightforward. You don't have to think a lot. But to write a sentence in French, you have to think. It isn't that easy. But nowadays, with the tools we have at our disposal, it is easy to make sure you don't make any grammatical or spelling mistakes. But it's a tough language. The difficulty makes it beautiful. It's like if you write a poem, you make it harder to write. And because of that, you can produce something that is more beautiful. Now I'm gonna show you my new book, then I'll meet my poker teacher. The 4th one, Stoic Samurai. Here the French version of the 4th book. This is my 5th book. Here we have the German version, which is called, here we have the French version, which is called La Voie du Daimon Stoique. The English version is called The Way of the Stoic Diamond. It's available worldwide. You can get the Kindle version or the paperback version. This is amazing to me because I'm very proud of it and I already started reading my book and I enjoyed it a lot. Actually, since the first one that I could translate to German, I started reading it in German and for some reason it looks more scientific for me. but it's just because I'm not used to. But it's very nice to have in different language. The translation is really good. I highly recommend it. Hello, Norman. I have great news today. If you let me, I would like to introduce that to you. The first news, the most important to me, is that I've managed to publish my fifth book, and it's already available in French, English, and German.
How long has it been since you published your last book?
6 months ago.
That was
something like
very
this.
quick then.
Yeah.
It's good timing. I just finished your last book. But congrats. Good news, yes. What's
Some
it called?
coincidences. It's called The Way of the Stoic Diamon. Let me check that. That's the exact title. The Way of the Stoic Diamon.
Okay, what's a diamond?
It's hard to say it in one sentence. Actually, it's possible. And I could ask ChatGPT and it will give you the exact answer. You want to check it for yourself and give me your definition of diamond? But I would say that it is the voice that talked to Socrates and told him not what to do, but what not to do. It is actually your inner voice. It is what we call reason. It is a way of talking about your consciousness. But now I'm very vague. It is more precise than that. And I talk about it a little in my book. You will understand it more. But
How is it spelled?
it is spelled Daimon.
Okay, interesting, yes. How many pages is this new book?
It's long. This book is the Kindle version in English is 582 pages. It's even longer than the last one.
Wow. You've been writing a lot the past 6 months.
I was very prolific.
Something like 3 pages a day or even more.
I'm not sure about that, but you can make the math, yeah.
Okay, that's good.
The thing with writing, I did finish the book of Émile Cioran and one of his books, and I also went more into his life. He thought that it was a very painful process to write. He's quite true with that, especially since a lot of topics, actually, when I debate with them, I talk about them, it's quite painful to do that because there are topics that are important to me that my consciousness works on. It's quite a painful process, but it is very pleasant once you've done it and you see what you have created. Now I've even started listening to my audiobook in German, and it's just awesome to have it translated in German. The translation is very good. It sounds more scientific when it's in German, but that's just because I'm less used to the words since I don't have anybody who talks German to me. It's awesome. It is really amazing. And if I find the time, I will publish it even in more languages than German. Maybe even in Estonian. I'm not sure about that. No promise, but maybe I'll give you a copy in Estonian, which is nice since you complained that not a lot of people talk Estonian in universities. You had a chat about that. You explained that to me. It might be nice for you if you can read it in Estonian, a philosophic book. I don't know if you ever did read a philosophic book in Estonian, but I haven't done it for now. So give me some time to do that. Did you ever read a book in Estonian, a philosophic book in Estonian?
Yes, we have a lot of translators. Most of the greatest books have been translated in some capacity.
That's nice.
Do you think it's your favorite book?
Is it my favorite book? I have to read it through. Then I'll tell you once I did read it through. Because it's different to write a book than to read it. You get a different impression of the book once you can read it. Let me read it, then I'll answer you. I'll tell you if I like this one more or the fourth one more. The other 3, they all have to be edited. But that's not complicated. I mean, yes, it's a lot of work. But once the work is done, you just update the book. Then the new version is available. I have one more great news for us today.
Okay, I'm ready.
Can you guess what it is?
No, the only thing on my mind was to ask you about those glasses, if you like them.
Well, it's the glasses. I find them awesome. I really enjoy them. They are quite addictive. You always want to put them on and jump into the virtual world they create. The 3 big screens. It's quite amazing to me. I can see a world where tomorrow everybody walks around with those kind of glasses, has 3 huge screens in front of him all the time. I can see that. If they enjoy it as much as I do, you will have a restaurant with like 5 or 10 people Nobody ever looks at the guy in front of them. They're all in their own bubble, watching whatever they want on 3 huge screens.
Wow. Do you think for you it already can replace physical screens?
Up to a certain extent, yes. Now it's only Android. On Android, not all the apps run. For example, if we want to do what we do now, we're gonna look at 3 hands that I marked last week. For that, I need Poker Tracker. Poker Tracker doesn't run on Android. We are using this interface. You would like to see me. That won't be possible since there's no camera interface. I could see you, but you could not see me. Now, that hurdle will be overcome. They will create an avatar that looks just as me and talks as me and moves as I do. Already the Apple virtual reality headset, it's a very expensive headset. They stopped already updating it. It wasn't viable from an economic standpoint. It was a prototype. They wanted to show what is possible with virtual reality. That's total virtual reality, not augmented reality as my glasses. They already, for what we are doing right now, they use an avatar. You will see a representation of the person talking. And it looks quite close to the person. That technology will get better in the future. They will find workarounds for all that.
You had reading glasses previously as well. Which ones do you think you will use for reading?
Now, if I really want to read, I'm only interested in reading, then I will use the Soul Reader glasses. If I'm only interested in reading, I want to do all the work myself. But if I'm outside and I want to have a reading document and some other documents around me because I want to do more work or check if I get a message or whatever comes to mind, then I would use the new ones. With the new ones, what I do is I like audiobooks. Sometimes I just want to listen to it. It's quite amazing when you can listen to a book and see the passage that is read at the same time because you pay more attention to it, especially if the book is new to you. If you don't want to have your thoughts too much interfere, get sidetracked. If you see the text and somebody reads it to you and you see exactly what word is read, that actually keeps your brain more focused. I really enjoy doing that. The app that I use is called Natural Reader. Unfortunately, it's a paid app. They have a free version, but then you get crappy voices. To have a decent voice, you need to use paid version, if I remember correctly. It's one subscription more, and all those subscriptions add up. But it is awesome because it works on Android and you have it on your phone, your PC, wherever you want. You can upload all the documents you are working on and you can just listen to the book. And it remembers where you stopped, so you can resume whenever you want the passage where you left. This is amazing for me. This is especially enjoyable when you use the new glasses. For some reason, it is awesome. Because the audio quality is actually quite nice. By default, you can put any Bluetooth device on it. I could use these earbuds or whatever I want with it. I've used a mouse and a Logitech keyboard. The Wave keyboard they have, it's not a very expensive keyboard, and an ergonomic mouse. The standing ergonomic mouse. They both work on it. Unfortunately, the keyboard doesn't work 100% because there's no app for Logitech. Normally, Logitech uses the app called Logitech Option Plus, but they don't have created it for Android. The only thing you can do is I've managed to select which keyboard it is, which type of keyboard. I have the basic letters, but every special character is at the wrong place. You still manage. So, unfortunately, it's not a 100% solution. But that is just because not a lot of people do that for now. I hope that Logitech wakes up, does the necessary stuff to at least make a small copy of their Option Plus and make it run on Android so that at least you can have the basics. Even for the key mapping, it was quite complicated to change the keys because by default, they put you on the English keyboard. I need the French Swiss keyboard because that's the one I use where I am in my region. Every keyboard I receive has that layout. But it was quite difficult because I didn't find the way to look it up in the setting in the Android version I use on my glasses. I didn't find that setting. But there's an app that redirects you actually to that setting and that opens that page for you. Once you install that app, it works. But if you don't know it, well, you might have to search a long time. I had to do deep research with ChatGPT to find that solution. Without ChatGPT, I wouldn't have found it. I was lucky because ChatGPT proposed a lot of solutions. They all didn't work, but this one did. Let me show them to you so we see what you're talking about. Everything goes into this small box. That's awesome to me. And it's the future of PCs. Because why would you not want that instead of a huge PC that is heavy with all the screens, all the cables? Everything goes in here. This is just amazing to me. Very compact. It says it wrong, but it's what who produce it.
I see it.
You have three things in there. One is the cable to connect. That's a little unfortunate that it's still not wireless. You still have to connect it to the device, but it's for speed. I'm sure we'll find a solution in 5, 10, or 20 years. They will make it totally wireless. You don't need the cable anymore. For now, you still need the cable to connect the station to the glasses. Then you have the glasses. These are the glasses. Here you have your selection if you are wearing glasses. You can dial it. These are actually microphones on top. I was wondering what this, these are microphones. You open them like this. This is how they look with the screen in front of them. Now you cannot look through them. You have the internal. On the left, you see where you connect the cable. And if you want to look through, for example, you can use them when you are eating. If you want to look through at your food or something else, you can, now you can look through. They look like a little like space sunglasses. And the quality has improved. Roku did a lot of progress. And this is the screen you use if you want to block out the world around you. The quality of the product did increase because I did buy the first glasses they produced. This one, when you have it in hand, you see that the quality has improved. Rocket did a good job. They improved a lot over a couple of years, like 4 or 5 years. And they're still at the edge of technology. They were the first to produce some glasses with screens, augmented reality glasses. Now again, they managed to bring this to the market before everybody else. Before Facebook, Microsoft. That's amazing. The Chinese are not lagging when we look at technology. They actually are ahead. Maybe not ahead, but they are very competitive. They manage to do awesome stuff. It's their working mentality. Communism, you don't get a choice. You have to work your ass off up to a certain degree. North Koreans, they work very slow. But the Chinese people, they work very fast for some reason. They have managed to turn it around. The example that I had a lot of piano teachers, and one of them was Chinese. She told me that she had more than 40 students. My new teacher that I met yesterday, she only has 4 with me. If I keep going to see her, then she only will have 4 students. And the sad thing is that she has to live with it. I asked her if she has a grant, something that helps her because she's still studying the piano. She did get her last degree, but she starts a new degree straight afterwards. She keeps studying it. With 4 students, that's not a lot of money, especially if you have to pay all your bills with that. I don't like that about our society, that they make life hard for people. Now, the good thing is that then people normally try to find a solution and might do something beneficial for them and society. Because if they would get everything without a question, they don't have to work for it, well, then maybe they won't produce any more work because they're just lazy and want just to sit on their butt and watch TV. But I still think that it shouldn't be like this, that we can produce optimal conditions for every human being. My piano teacher, the new one that I met last week, is one of those examples. There are a lot of things that are unfortunate, like that she doesn't have access to a great piano. She has a piano, she has a room with a piano because she lives in some student building and there's a piano. But it isn't a great piano. It wasn't designed actually to give piano lessons. It's a little sad, all the obstacles people face. Yes, she would like to stay in Switzerland, but probably she won't manage because she broke up with her last boyfriend. He was Swiss. I told her that she should think about using that connection to get the papers, but she thought it was better to break up with him. That's life, but to me, it's not an optimal situation. I don't think we need to create unnecessary suffering. For me, that I have to change all the time teachers and all the time be searching for somebody because it's very hard to find an optimal teacher. Well, that's not great. The only thing I don't like about the glasses we are talking about is the volume. They have here two volume buttons. They should be volume buttons. But unfortunately, sometimes they are volume buttons. Sometimes they change the screen brightness. That's very annoying to me because I never know when I hit them if they will change my screen brightness or if they will change the volume of my glasses. I never use them because every time I do, I get a random result. But I think they can remap them, those. Let me choose what those two buttons do in the future. An update could fix that. They did so much stuff. It's amazing to me that they mess up a basic feature like that. Since a lot of things work great with those glasses, the audio, the image, the different kind of showing the screens. For example, you can fix the screen wherever you look, the screen follows you, or you have a place where you can put it, or you can get creator mode where it is very wide and very big. You focus only on one screen. There's a reading mode. There are a lot of different modes, and they actually are quite useful and quite nice to use. It gets some time to get used to, but it's really enjoyable. So they make so much stuff right, and then they mess up the volume because they want to make it a volume at the same time as screen brightness. That to me is annoying. But maybe if I look into it a little more, maybe I have to hit it twice or once. I don't know. Maybe I can select. Maybe there's a solution. I just didn't understand how it works. But for now, that's annoying. What doesn't work is any banking app because it's a new OS. They find it not secure enough. They won't allow you. 2FA won't work. Two-factor authentication will not work. App won't run because there's no SIM card in it. But there's a workaround for that. There's an app called the Beeper. With Beeper, you can have any SIM card. You can even have several phones. If you have 3, 4, or 10 phones, you get WhatsApp messages for every single of those phones. You can sync all of them in Beeper. And you can Beeper to answer all of them. It will look to the person as if you're using the phone they're writing the message to. There's a workaround. Every app that uses overlay. Overlay is an accessibility permission you have to give in order for the app to run. Unfortunately, they do not work for now on the glasses. If you need that permission, the app won't work. But still, in the most useful and basic apps, they all work. I can do close to 80 or 90% of the work I want to do. I'm really happy with it. It's addictive. I always want to put them on half the screens in front of me. It's really addictive. The battery is not too bad. I would think it lasts up to 2 hours. It might be more than that, but it depends on what you do, how bright the screen is you are using, have an impact. But it works for at least 2 hours. You can always use it when you're charging. If you want to have some external batteries, you can use it when you're charging. If you have a power bank with, you can extend that for a long time. I find them quite comfortable to wear. I don't get much fatigue, but I haven't used them more than maybe 1 hour straight for now. I just received them yesterday. I haven't used them more than 1 hour straight. Maybe I've used them around 1 hour without taking them off. There's not much fatigue for me when I have them on. I can see myself using them for an extended period of time.
You gave a good overview of them, a thorough review. It does sound like a good gadget or a tool. I'm thinking maybe it's easier to concentrate with them, with the screens, as you can block out the outside world than it is with a normal computer screen.
I think that will be the case. Tomorrow I have an appointment. I will try to be there 30 minutes earlier, and then I will sit in a restaurant and put the glasses on and test them outside with sunlight, see how useful they are in that kind of environment. Focusing is easier because you have less distractions. Since you only care about the screens you have around, up to a certain extent, block everything else out. If you use the glasses, you should use an app on Android which is called Quetta. Quetta. It's QUETTA. Actually, it's very nice because it blocks a lot of ads everywhere, but really everywhere. I've never seen an ad with it. Without that, you get bombarded with ads. For me, they're unbearable. I like to focus on what I'm doing. I don't want to see any ads when I'm working. If you use the internet, a lot of people will, well, then you should use that app since it has a great blocker for ads integrated in it that works by default. You don't even have to select it. It is always there. You cannot turn it off. It's amazing.
All right. On to poker now. What do you think?
Sounds good for a twisted transition. Let's take a look at my hands. If you agree, we can start with that.
I have a few things written out just to share my general thoughts. We can review your hands, but my general thoughts were to practice a bit for bomb pots. I had few ideas for them. One was that we can enter a practice game where we make every hand to be like a bomb pot and just play a few practice hands and discuss through them, which wouldn't be with real opponents. It just would in a practice environment, but hopefully would still learn a few things about those bomb pots. But the other way would still be to watch you play one live game, even if it would be through the browser screen, like you said. It would be helpful for me to see how it all works for you there.
How about I'll test it to see if it works with the browser for next time, because I can make a test, see if it shows up. If it does, we do that next time. Today, because we don't have the time to do everything today, we just look at my hands, play the game you talked about. I think
Perfect.
there are only 3 hands. Let me see.
Okay, let's start with that.
We might go through them really fast. Then we can play the game you talk about. Thanks a lot for thinking about that, coming up with new stuff.
No problem.
My results aren't good right now.
Why
The
do you
boom-
think that is, by the way?
It's the boom part. You ask me to make a lot of changes in my game when I'm on the big blind, small blind, and the button. All those little changes, I might not do them 100% correct. They might have a bad impact on me. On the long run, it will help. But for now, I'm still struggling to adjust to all that. Because of it, my results suffer. You actually want me to play more hands. And when I do that, I always take a risk.
Early levels especially, yes.
Early levels. When I do that,
Not when you have 15 big blinds.
I know, not when I have 15. You're correct. But then I have to look at the doubling up and going all in when I have a good enough hand. But when I do that, there's a chance that I mess up. When I mess up, that will have a negative impact on my overall result.
Sounds like you're feeling not as comfortable with the new stuff playing. Sometimes it can be like this. Changing something, even if it's for the better, can be difficult short term. It's similar with the addictions people have, that if people have difficult addictions, then at first, if they try to live without them, then it can be even more difficult than it was to live with the addiction, at least short term. That's what I would bring as a comparison to it.
I thought about poker. Now, I won't use the glasses to play, but since you can use it through the web page, I'm wondering, now there's an issue. You cannot use the same app 3 times. That's an issue, but you could use Chrome and another browser you could use. So if you use 3 different browsers and you can connect 3 times to the casino you're playing, then you could have actually 3 huge screens of 3 games around you. You can just look at every screen by moving your head and you could play. If you can do split screen, half screen for 2 apps, you would have 6 tables in front of you. You are huge since you can divide the 3 screens into 2, which makes 6. But then you would need 6 different browsers. The limitation that you can open an app only once, maybe that will change. They find a way to let you open up several times, just as you can do on Windows. That's what I'm thinking about because of the new glasses I have. It shows you that there's a lot people could actually do. Even for a professional poker player, if 3 screens or 6 screens, I'm sure on Android there are 6 different browsers you could use. And if you can connect with 6 different browsers to the same casino, then you have 6 tables open and huge tables. I find that interesting to think about. I won't do it because I'm not a professional poker player, but it shows you that a lot of things people could do if they think about it and try to use the technology at the stage where it is now, and it will only get better in the future.
Sounds like there's endless possibilities, really.
Android, there's an immense amount of apps, much more actually than on Windows. But the thing is, the really good apps like Poker Tracker, they aren't on Android. Poker Tracker could be on Android, but other apps like screen recorders, well, they are screen recorders on Android. But editing apps won't run on Android because it doesn't have enough power. With 8 GB RAMs and processor designed for a phone, it won't do. Okay, let's look at a table.
All right, it's visible already.
I opened with 2 big blinds. I have 3 bet of 6 big blinds. I did fold my pocket sevens. What do you think?
You made the correct decisions this hand. I like how you played it.
Thank you, Norman. Now I have 10 for suited. I'm on the button. Under the gun, limps. I have 3 limp. It's good to limp with them. Do you agree?
Well, this is what I've been recommending you. Now, 10-4 suited is a pretty poor hand. Usually I would actually fold this one because it's a hand that really struggles to make straights, and it's just not. If it's 4-5, I like it more. If it's 4-6, I like it more. Even 4-7, I like more. Or 10-7. It's just a big difference between a 4 and a 10. But with so many limpers, with just one big blind, even a hand like this, I think is okay if you play. I don't think it's a great opportunity. I would want you to limp a lot here. I would want you to limp very many hands here. It's just that 10-4 suited is a below average hand. I think I would have folded this one. But if you called it, I actually don't mind it. I think it's fine. And it's one big blind, and it's in the spirit of what I'm recommending. The spirit is that to be more active in these first levels. And it is a suited hand. It's not like it's 7-2 offsuit here. Even though I would have folded it, you calling this button is almost as good of a play.
I did call it because it's a suited hand. I thought that could be nice if I make a flush. It's very early in the game. I still have 72.9 big blinds. So I thought I could afford it.
To explain how close it is, in the small blind, I would have called it for half a big blind more. But for one full big blind, I don't want to talk too long about this decision. It's just for me, I'd want a hand that can make a straight. For that, the hand has to be at least a 3 gapper, but usually a 2 or 1 gapper. And between 4 and a 10, I don't even know how many, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. It's a 5 gapper. That's a whole straight fits between 10 and 4.
I understand it perfectly. Thank you, Norman. When you say I don't want to discuss it too much, but actually what we are discussing is where you put the line in the sand. So what you do and what you don't do. And you told me that for half a big blind, you would do it without hesitation, but you wouldn't do it on the button for one big blind. That is important for me to know because I see where you put the line, and I don't have as much experience than you do. For me, it's extremely hard to know where I should put the line. But the more we talk about it, the better I get at judging those probabilities, and the better decisions in the future I will be capable of doing. It's like in the market. The more you analyze the markets and the more positions you take, the better your feeling gets for the market and when you should take a position and when not. At the beginning, you have no idea. You don't know if you have to take 100 position a day or one position a week or one position a month. You have no idea. But the more you do it, the better you get at judging when the right opportunity is in front of you.
After reading your book and having that in mind, what you just said makes me think that maybe it would be a good Stoic habit if at the end of a tournament, when you go out of the tournament and you get whatever place you get, even if you get 5th or 6th or 7th place, maybe it's mentally good to say something like, thank you for this learning opportunity to play this tournament. Even if this tournament you get very unlucky, you have aces, the other guy has 10-6 offsuit, they win. For mentality, it goes together with what you just said, that actually every position you take helps you along the way. It's the same with every tournament. Even if you have a bad tournament, if your mindset is positive in a learning way, then it will help you along the journey. Maybe that's something I will do myself. Another thing I like doing is saying nice hand. Whenever you lose a hand, it's this courtesy thing that poker players do, but it's a mental thing to not be in a negative way after a loss, just to say that nice hand to the opponent to acknowledge their victory when you lose a hand. That would be something similar that I might start doing, inspired by what you said, that every position in market helps you along the way. The same way about every hand you lose in poker or every tournament you lose, that you could say thank you afterwards, and hopefully it would be helpful mentally. Do you think?
I think it's awesome. I could do that, actually. I can think about it, create some mantras that we could use. If I create like 5 or 10 that I like, maybe they inspire you, you create one more, or you choose one of those that I propose to you. But it's a very good exercise. It's extremely good to do that. I agree with it 100%. The thought that comes to mind is what we are doing, actually, we are analyzing what happens. And that we can do with poker table. We can do it scientifically in a lab, or we could do it in the markets. We can always analyze. That's something that never stops. You can always think about how to improve, what tool to use, how to look at what is happening. It's a game that never stops during your entire life. But what I find sad is that people don't analyze society, or they don't analyze their relationships with other people, or their emotions they have to deal with their entire day. Because our emotions make everything hard. When my friend tells me mean stuff like that I'm a nobody, that I should stop writing books or producing videos because nobody will ever listen to me. Now,
Is that Marian again?
no, it's not Marian. It's another person. We already talked about that. You told me that I have a huge fan. And the thing is, when she says that, I don't think she actually means it. But she says it because somehow I talked about something that tricked her. Anything, she has a different Weltanschauung, a different way of looking at. And that tricked her. And then she wanted to put me back in my place. And she wanted to remind me that I'm a nobody and that I shouldn't do any analysis or any critical thinking. But it is just her limitations. And the thing that she never examined her feelings. Because there's no point in saying mean stuff. I never tried to say mean stuff. Sometimes I say something hard, but it's just to wake the person up. I wouldn't try to be toxic. That's what I think. Maybe my friends think differently. I talked with her about it. She says it's true. You never say anything mean. I don't know. Everybody has his own opinion about that, but I find it sad that we have critical thinking and analysis only with very narrow stuff like a poker game or the markets or what happens in a lab. But we never think about the big picture or life or everything that happens all day long, because you can analyze a lot of stuff. Any replies to that?
Not really at the moment. No, thanks for asking though.
I limped. Now I'm facing 4 opponents. Somebody already goes half pot. There's a caller, so I just fold. And also the board, if they have a queen, would be very bad.
Here's a question for you. What would you do with ace 5 here?
I would still fold. That's what first comes into mind. But I have to think about the pot odds and how many outs I have. The thing with ace 5, I only have 3 outs. So that would give me 3 times 4. That would give me 12.
I think there's a problem with the way you think about.
The issue is that even if I make an ace, I'm not sure that I win, because if they have a queen, I would still lose. That out wouldn't be good enough. Is that what you're telling me?
Essentially, yes. I mean, 2 players already put half pot on the flop. There's a pretty good chance someone already has a queen, exactly. Then you would have no outs.
I agree with that. But then it would be 12. Anyways, they ask for 25% because half pot is 25, is pot odds 25. Shouldn't Poker Tracker tell me that?
It
Here,
does tell.
you see, he says 25.
But that's for your opponent. After he calls, your pot odds improve.
Now they are better. They are down to 20%.
If someone had a queen, even if it was 10-1, you'd have to fold a 5.
Yeah, I mean, that's very dangerous. That's a very ugly what just happened. I shouldn't call with ace 5. Thanks for asking the question.
That's something you have to be very cautious about in multi-way pot, to really examine, are my outs really outs? Are my outs really live? And if it looks like someone has a queen, well, then there is no outs. But yes, good. We can carry on. Can we see how this hand played out and what they ended up having? So we see one player. How would you analyze these players' play? Now you're the coach. These players ask you, Hey Titus, you have a lot of experience in these sit-and-go tournaments. Tell us what you think about our play. What would you say to them?
Player 4 is a bad player. He should have folded here. He shouldn't have called on the flop. On the turn, he's asked again for half pot. He calls. The turn, it's even more risky because now he can even be beat with a 6. He takes even more risk. Here, it gets very hard for him because now we have 3 of a kind. Now it's of course very hard to fold. But since the other guy goes this time even more than half pot, he goes 2/3 of a pot. Now he goes all in. That's crazy. He finds out that he actually had the queen and that he lost everything and that he's out of the tournament. So he played a very bad game. Player 8, I think he played it quite reasonable. He tried to get the maximum out of it. I like his half pot on the flop, the turn, and it was also good to go for 2/3 of a pot on the river. Player 8 played it decent. I don't know how you could play better than what he did. What do you think?
Well, it was very entertaining for me to hear you commentate on their play. You gave a pretty fair assessment, and I would ask you this thing. Let's say it's very difficult for player 4 to fold on this situation on the river because they made a full house. If they don't want to fold this river, what would have been a better play than to go all in for player 4?
Just to call.
Just to call. And in this case, he still would have been in the tournament. He would have still had 40, 42, 43 big blinds left. That's not too bad to have 43 big blinds. Even though he made a big mistake all throughout this hand, he still would have survived it unless he made it worse on the river by going all in there. Yes, it's really, if player 8 is bluffing, what would you gain by going all in if player 8 is bluffing?
You would gain 45.5 big blinds.
But wouldn't you gain those same big blinds by just calling as well?
You would then make 44.65 big blinds. If you call, you make 44.65 big blind.
But if his bluffing was the premise, why would he call an all-in if he's bluffing?
You're correct. If he's bluffing, he will fold. You will make the same money. You cannot gain any more by doing that because if he's bluffing, he will just fold. You're correct now.
Exactly. If he's not bluffing, then you're taking on initial risk. That's good.
It's a nonsensical move because you cannot gain anything. Now, putting 16, that makes no sense at all because you cannot make one more big blind in this situation. Can you make one more big blind? You can if he has 6, but he would never do that.
But that's very unlikely. Would he even call an all-in with a 6? Maybe not.
I don't think so. He should have only called because going all in, you cannot make any more money with it. You're correct.
Really, he should have folded and believed player 8, even on the flop.
I know, but it's just interesting because the mistake, it looks like a huge mistake to me when he does it. But there's a reason why it makes no sense to do it, especially in that situation.
I would show here is that there's different degrees of a mistake. If player 4 calls the river, he still played it very badly, but he would have played it better than he did this time. It's just like in life, you can make a big mistake in life, or you can make an even greater mistake. I would say player 4 made the ultimate mistake in the poker sense, that he completely ruined their tournament for no reason in this hand.
That makes me think about something, is that when people get wealthy, because some people do get wealthy, they inherit a lot of money, then you should be extremely careful of what you do. You should have some really good advisors around you. And yourself, you should have learned a lot of critical thinking and analysis. Because there could be just a couple of mistakes you do and they could mess it all huge up. If you just make small mistakes, it will never matter, especially if you're wealthy, because you can just afford them. But if you start doing some huge mistake because you think you have to do it and it was a very bad idea, that could be very sad. That makes me think about something. Do you know who the wealthiest woman on earth is?
If I'm not mistaken, it's the ex-wife of Jeff Bezos.
Well done. What is her job?
I don't know what her current job is, but she gathered her wealth from a divorce.
Her job is divorcing. That's what made her all her money.
I want to comment on this. I would say an advocate for female rights could possibly argue that she was a big reason Jeff Bezos ever became so successful.
I don't believe that.
There's a saying that besides every great man, there stands even greater woman. There's this argument about it.
I really like the example because what Jeff Bezos did is exactly the same to me than what Player 4 did. It is nonsensical. He could have been smarter and find a solution that is very kind to his ex-wife, where she gets a lot of money, but not 40 billions. Come on, you have to be normal.
I have my last comment on this hand, which is sometimes people talk about poker is difficult, or is it possible to win in poker or make money in poker. This hand is a perfect example that poker can be very easy if you just avoid the big mistakes and if the other players keep on making them. And I would say a hand like this is actually not super rare. I see hands like this happen all the time now. It's not always you're involved or benefit from a hand like this. In this case, you were just on the table observing when it happened. But for me, I would gather a lot of confidence in the possibilities of doing well in poker when a hand like that happens, if that makes some sense.
Okay, Norman, but I have to use some critical thinking and some analysis, because if I don't do that, well, what's the point of living? Writing book or playing poker or trying to make some money in the markets? I have to ask you the following question. I hope you will answer it sincerely. Do you think that Daniel Negreanu or any other top player sees a lot of hands like this?
Well, not a lot. The stronger the competition, the smaller the mistakes get. But the stronger the competition, the more costly even a small mistake would be. In this tournament, this player made something like a $1 mistake, which was the whole buy-in. And if you look at $1,000 tournament, someone probably won't do $1,000 mistake in one hand. They will do it, but it doesn't happen very often. It's more rare there. But people might do $100 mistake in $1,000 tournament. And that happens all the time. Even though it's a mistake only for 1/10 of a stack, monetarily, that's $100. I would explain it in this way, that the mistakes get smaller, but because the money people play for, Daniel Negreanu plays $1 million tournament or has played them. If someone makes a 1% mistake there, that's a $10,000 mistake in that sense. And small mistakes, everyone has some sort of small mistakes. No one has perfectly mastered poker. The game is complicated enough. There's a lot of individual variability and mistakes and skills and all these things. To answer, no, it's unlikely someone will make a big mistake like this for all their chips, for 70 big blinds, all of them in one hand, just huge mistake. But there will be mistakes. They will even be possibly more costly mistakes that happen there.
Okay, Naumann, thank you for answering that. The answer is no. Daniel Negreanu or any other top player will not see a lot of those mistakes. I don't think they will see any of those mistakes because they play against very good opponents.
I disagree on any. They will see less of them, but there has been plenty of times where people have made, in poker history, if you want, I could tell you about it next time.
Okay, could be interesting. Maybe we do that next time or another time, another day.
Remind me, ask me of this if you want to hear some stories of this.
Maybe have a bad conception about that.
Just like in markets, just like there's been Bernie Madoff and FTX, these big things happening.
They are scammers.
Well, maybe not the best example, but has there been traders or non-scamming equity funds that make huge blunders in markets? Surely there have been.
Yes.
So the same is true in poker. There has been players who have made mistakes for tens of millions of dollars.
I'm thinking about what you say. In the markets, I'm thinking straight how you can avoid those mistakes. I get into details when you talk about it. It's interesting. It's true that it happens, Norman. It's true that it happens. That has a lot to do with inexperience. The markets aren't as clear, as mathematical as poker game because you don't know what the optimal or the best thing is. You cannot just have optimal. How is it called?
Looking for the GTO game theory optimal.
We don't have that in the markets. That's the difference. But I still have to use my critical thinking about what you say. The issue with what you say, I'm sorry to make it very hard for you as a poker player to hear that. That's maybe something you do not want to hear. But the issue is we are assuming that you are a perfect player, that the people in front of you make mistakes. But the issue is they make mistakes, but until you are perfect, I don't know if you ever will be, you will also make mistakes. Do you do more mistakes or less mistakes than them? Well, if you really focus on poker and you don't get sidetracked with nonsense and you really can focus and you really enjoy the game, maybe you can be better, but that's very hard, especially when you reach top level. The issue with the argument is they make mistakes. I can admit to it, but since you also do mistakes, it will even out, in my opinion.
Will I make mistakes like this player did in this hand?
Never.
It won't really even out then.
As long as you still interact with those kind of players, yes. I agree.
Well, as the skill gets better, then even the smaller mistakes, even a mistake for going all in with 10 big blinds, one player knows what to go all in, another doesn't. Even things like that, some players make these decisions better. In general, you're right. It's a sport, it's competition. Everyone makes mistakes, but it's clearly possible to make less mistakes than other people.
I agree with that, Norman. That's the whole point of the game. But I'm very sorry. I have to say one more hard thing. I don't want to be hard on you, Norman. But when you say that to me, for me, alarm bells ring. Because I think that you have an immense ego if you think that you can always be better than good players and that you always can make less mistakes than them and that you assume that will be the case. That is actually dangerous. I'm scared that you will take too much risk and play at a too high level. One day you lose too much because you just think you can easily beat them. I'm more humble. At the level where I am with the training that I get with you, there's a chance of surviving because of the training I get with you, the level I'm playing at. But if I would go much higher, I would be much more skeptical. Maybe I'm too prudent. I don't know. I hope that this remark doesn't hurt you, that you don't mind me saying it. But I would be scared. It sounds to me like if you want to take huge risk in the markets. I'm telling myself, man, can you really afford those risks? Because if it goes wrong, it will hurt your bottom line a lot. That's what I'm thinking just.
I hope you don't take it the wrong way, but I think you're mistaken here by how you're construing this confidence. You see, this confidence isn't based on anything other than just the fact that when I started playing poker, I played with these sorts of players like you do here. And at some point, after a lot of effort, I was able to win against them and then move to the next level and win against them. So if at some point I get to a level where I will be unable to win against those players, well, for one, I have many levels I can fall back to. Possibly at some point, something happens, I get senile, I get stupid or something, I can't beat any level. That could happen. The thing is, even if I lose whatever amount in poker, it still wouldn't be anywhere close to what I've been able to win from moving up all those levels. All the risks I'm taking are just the risks I've been able to accumulate so far. Even if I'm wrong, it's not a big deal, and certainly that can happen. That's part of the risk. It's just if you've gone at it step by step, it's not such a big deal. Like if Daniel Negreanu loses $1 million tournament, well, he can afford that. If I play against good players and I think I'm better than them and I'm wrong and I actually lose, well, then that's why I have my bankroll management and I worked up my way to try there. And if I lose something like 10, 20, 30, whatever buy-ins, then I will accept my defeat, move down to the previous level, essentially. It's not based on something like arrogant or just based on self-belief, like I'm better. It's not based on that. It's just based on what has happened, essentially.
Okay, great, Norman. I accept that. And my mistake It's probably because I'm thinking too much about the markets and not enough about poker and what you do. The issue with the markets is you can work your capital, we don't call it bankroll, but capital, up. You can make it to 100K, 1 million, 10 millions, 100 millions. But then if you make a really bad mistake, you certainly could lose the 100 millions if you make a really bad mistake. And that's
Oh.
the issue, because you will always want to invest your money. You will never want to put 50 millions just in a bank. And even if you do that, there could be a bail-in, the 15 million disappear. There are ways of losing everything in the markets. It happened to a lot of people, even the best. That's the issue. You could be good over decades, then one mistake or one black swan event could annihilate everything you have done until now. Probably the risk is less in poker. If what you're doing, you have proper bankroll management, then it should be less in poker. I admit that. But in the market, unfortunately, one mistake could put you out of the game. If that happens, of course, a normal guy would do everything he can to reduce that mistake, that black swan event, as much as possible. But it's never possible to make sure that it totally disappears.
From my standpoint, one should expect that a black swan event will happen, that over 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, something extremely strange will likely happen, if not multiple times. For poker, that's very easy. You should never risk in one hand, one tournament more than a few percent, 1, 2, maybe 5%. It's almost impossible to go to ruins at that point, especially once you've amassed something. If you already have some cushion, then you lose 5%. Now your total goes down. Now your new 5% is less. There's always, yes, obviously, it would be very unlikely that the downfall would be quick and abrupt. I would say with markets, that's why it's recommended to diversify, to invest in things that are not with the goal of growing your capital, but to maintain it, to invest in something like precious metals or the government bonds you could get, which are often just only 3% a year, offer very small growth. But the point of that is to maintain a fortune if someone has amassed that. Actually, in my mind, what you describe is usually relates to traders who think in a way that they want all of their money always to be making more money. But traders who lose everything in one day or in a week or something, they make that mistake of not being diversified enough. If you put all your eggs into one basket, essentially, or put all your money in one hand of poker or one tournament, then yes, sooner or later, I would say you're guaranteed to go broke then. If someone's just trading one commodity, it could be gold, it could be Bitcoin, whatever, but if they're all in on one thing, they don't leave any diversifying group. If they don't leave even 30, 50, 70% for once things go bad, then I would say they're almost guaranteed. At least it's very risky things will go bad for them then. In my mind, it's a diversifying issue. If someone diversifies enough, then it's extremely unlikely that different industries, completely different instruments, all would go to ruins exactly the same time.
Norman, what was the number you gave me? Well, you said you should never risk in a game more than 1 or 2%. Is that the number you gave me?
That would be pretty good for poker, yes.
Okay, now if I want to translate that, you can do that without any issue in poker. You should do that. You should never not respect your bankroll management. However, in the markets, you need compounding returns. That's one issue. And you won't see the impact of compounding return if you only expose 1% of your capital, because the rest will be sanctioned. You just have inflation on it. You can never make back the inflation with 1%. That's one of the issues. The markets, there's liquidity getting injected and liquidity going out of the market at the same time. You find a lot of situations where a lot of indices, a lot of stocks, a lot of different assets you can expose yourself to They all get in a bull market at the same time, and they all get in a bear market at the same time. Day trading would be the most close to what you do, where you only risk 1 or 2%. That's true. That's what I do with day trading, 1 or 2% of my capital. I don't expose more to it because it would be too dangerous to do more than that. But the thing is, you still have more risk than that. Because if I want to really do that, I would have to use 100 different brokers. There are not so many brokers available. And since I have to use a couple of them, 2, 3, then my risk get much higher, because if the broker like FTX goes bankrupt, well, then I don't lose 100%, but I could use in one go, I could lose 33% of my money. And it's not always like that exactly, because different brokers allow you to get exposed to different assets and you use them according to what you want to do. The risk you take is still higher. It's not as easy as in poker, where you can just say, well, I never risk more than 1 or 2% of my bankroll. In the markets, you will have to risk more of that. There are different things that can happen. You cannot just make sure that you never lose more than 1 or 2% in the markets. Nobody, no hedge fund can do that. If he does that, if he manages to do that, he will lose money because of inflation.
Quick comment, 1 or 2% I meant with one hand or one tournament. Now, if you have a bad week, bad month, bad something, then you could lose that multiple times. Could lose 20-30% what you described. I don't see that as an issue. I mean, if you're in markets or in poker for many decades, to me, that's not a black swan. That's something that's expected, that at some point you will take a step back, lose 20-30%. But with everything you've made with the markets or with poker, then even if you lose 20-30%, you're still very far from ruin. And you still have a lot of capital left, which you can grow back and grow bigger than your capital was before losing that 20-30%. So what you say is true. And I think these things happen, but I think it's quite rare to lose. Even if you lose 50%, I would say it's not a ruin. You can grow back from that. I think in the next 50 years, even for someone who tries to be very diversified and safe, it could happen, but it's still a far way from ruin. That's my first comment. Like a ruin, I mean losing 95-99%. That has to be mismanagement. The second quick comment you said was the 2.5%. Well, yes, you will lose that if you just let money sit, do nothing, but you can have money do less risky things. Like you could have government bonds, for example, which are often 3.5-5%. To beat that 2.5% in a safer way, even if you bought silver or something, you would beat that. That's not a big issue unless you do. There's ways. It's not like you're either trading, taking big risks, or your money is just losing 2.5% a year. There's many different levels of risk between those two extremes.
Okay, Norman, I agree. Well, not with everything you say, not with every detail, government bonds and so on. But that's not what we are talking about. But with the general idea, I agree. Yes, you can lose 25%, you can lose 50%, you could even lose a little more and make it back. It just depends what you're doing, in what market you are, and what your strategy is. And if there's a chance that that happens. Actually, I think you can always make it back. I'm optimistic that even if I get hit 25 or 50%, that I will make it back. I'm optimistic about that. But I have seen many great traders, many banks, many guys who lost everything and went bankrupt, that I'm just skeptical, and I don't promise myself that everything will be rosy and that I always will make it. Just my attitude. But with the facts you gave back to me, maybe I'm too prudent. Maybe because of that, I don't take enough risk. It could all be true. Maybe it's a self-limiting belief. But with the facts, you say that you can make it back with a loss of 50%. I agree, Norman. I agree.
Those people, I know a lot of people to ruin. I think, yes, some big mistakes there. It's like this player 4 in this hand. Someone just was too greedy, was too optimistic, believed that black swan will never happen or something like that. It has to be, I would just say, stupidity. Now, we could all be stupid. We don't know it ahead of time. There's always some risk of that. I see your point in that even if you think you're well managed, something could happen that's very surprising. But one way to try to do better is to learn a bit from history and then to realize these things, that banks could fall, trading platforms could fall, individual stocks or market even, like, or a country could go down. If all these things you take into account and you diversify through that, then basically only the end of the world would be required to wipe out all that liquidity.
We talked about the most important
Well,
stuff.
interesting
The,
discussing.
the only last thing is you can talk about the smartest people on earth and the best traders if you find them. You could put them in a room. Nobody will be able to make the best plan. Take enough risk so it is worthwhile and make sure that he will be profitable, because certain losses are just so huge that it's hard to make it back. They would never agree. There's never one blueprint you can just follow. In poker, it is easier. But with the market, then there's not one solution you can come up. The less you want to expose yourself, well, the less you get the thing that is really important, which is compounding results. That you make more money, the more money you makes more money. That is small ball effect in the markets you get. A lot of gains come down to that. Not only, but a lot comes down to that. It's a very tough thing, but we have a lot of tools that are awesome. Nowadays, the situation has never been as good as it is right now for humanity. I'm very optimistic, but I just don't think that there's one perfect solution. The best solution that I could give you, if you really want to take the least amount of risk, then I would go for something like Bitcoin. You're not a trader. You don't need to use any platform. Just use Bitcoin, put it in cold storage. The probability that it goes to zero is extremely low. There's less probability that that happens than America goes bankrupt, everything goes to zero. That's easier. And there's very low risk that Bitcoin will totally disappear or that there's a fatal error in its code or anything like this. That's the best thing you could do. It still limits you. The solutions are better now than they ever were. If you want it easy, that's the best I can provide you. Now you take the risk of cryptocurrencies. If they all get banned by every government, it will be bad. The risk won't be zero. But if I had to take a bet, I would rather bet on that technology because it's just code. You might go through a bad period, but it will make it back. If not for you, at least for the generations who come after you. They will get back all the money you lose. That's the best you can do if you really want to make it as low as possible. That strategy is interesting because there's a chance of black swan, but it's a chance that it won't happen, that it will be very profitable for you. You still expose yourself to a great outcome. You reduce a lot the risk of total loss.
I would make this comment, which relates to poker as well, that often it seems to me the biggest fall, the players who are first fall. It could also be the same with traders, that someone who has the most, he's been the most successful, these are the ones who go bankrupt. I would say the reason for that is to get to first place, even in a poker tournament. Usually, for someone to get there, that means they had to take a little bit too many risks. They were a bit too risky and they were a bit lucky to get there. But there was a fault in their mindset. The fault was they were trying too hard. It got them very far. But the thing is, at one point, over 30, 40 years, trying so hard to be first often can lead to that. Suddenly you don't get lucky, you get the black swan, everything gets to ruin. For that reason, I've said it before in my mind, the best player is the player who consistently gets second or third place in these tournaments, or even in a big tournament. Now, it's not like you won't try to win or something. It's just that to win or go for a win, often it seems to me that win is like, if this tournament starts with 8 players, there's 7 players who are all trying to go for win and they're all just taking stupid risks. And one of those sevens will have a lot of chips and will be the king of all the dummies in this way. But that's not something that's sustainable long term. Another time, they will be out. But to me, the most successful player on that table is actually the player who doesn't engage in that, also doesn't get first maybe so often, and is left with smaller profits, smaller gains, right? You see a trader who makes huge gains because they're taking massive risks and making big moves. But to me, the more successful is the one who takes way smaller risks and moves, because that's something that's sustainable over a long time, over 50 years. Over 1 year or 5 years, someone stupid will be likely the most successful who just took crazy risk, but that same person will be broke in 10 or 20 years. In my mind, that's really why sometimes the people who get successful too quickly are almost destined to fall down too quickly, because by trying to get too quickly, it's like programmed into it, the fall of it, essentially. How do you see that?
I agree 100% with what you say, Norman. I'm really impressed on how long you can talk about that subject without getting annoyed. That's great because very few people on earth are capable of doing that and saying something interesting about it. Let me just add two more things. I only remember one. Money really isn't so important. People focus too much on money. That puts them in the bad mindset you are talking about. The example that I give you, let's say I live with 30K a year. Let's say I double to 60K a year. Would my life really improve a lot, do you think?
Unlikely to change too much.
Exactly. Now, let's say I go to 100K. Would it change a lot? From 60K, I go to 100K. Would it change a lot?
I would say big thing is, what are your values and your lifestyle? Because if you're happy with your lifestyle, then even if you had 1 billion, maybe you wouldn't change it too much.
That's a good remark. But the idea is that still, if I go to 100, it still wouldn't change a lot. Now, let's say I go to 300 a year, or even 3 million a year, or 30 million a year. Yes, at the moment, there are stuff that becomes possible that before that wasn't possible. But even those things aren't that important. They will not have a huge impact on your life. The important thing in life to me is that you don't have to go into wage slavery, because most of the time you don't enjoy that. I've listened to somebody who made me laugh a lot. He was some kind of guru and he was teaching people how to work less. He was very proud because he said he had a lot of people who come to him and a lot of clinicians, a lot of doctors came to him and they wanted to learn from him how to live with 3K a month and work only 3 days instead of working 5 days. That made me laugh a lot because I thought that prestigious thing that everybody admires and everybody thinks it's awesome, being a doctor. Actually, the guys don't want to work. They rather make less money, but only have to work 3 days than to make more money and have to work 5 days a week. That make me laugh. The issue is when people get that much money, they get into reckless spending. Mike Tyson is an example for that. Justin Bieber, Michael Jackson was an example for that. They go into reckless spending. All of them made something like 700 millions and they all ended up with only 10 or 20 or 30 millions at the end of their life. And that was only the case because they are still celebrities. That's why they managed to keep 10 or 20 or 30 millions, because they have the celebrity status. But without that, they would be totally bankrupt and at zero. We talked about that more than enough. There's one more hand. This one we haven't seen. But if we can finish on that, that would be great. I don't think we'll do much more because it was already very long. Unfortunately, we won't practice boom pot today, but we can do it next time.
The previous hand was a little bit like boom pot practice. Why do I say that if you replay the pre-flop of it?
Because it's like if I have to play it in a boom scenario. It's like if I have to enter it, it's close to it. You're correct. I wanted to say the difference that two people folded, but the boom pot is all the time, so the people might not be in anyway. It's very close to boom pot. I agree.
Exactly. That's a good hand to look at to recognize why a 5 should be mostly folded there. Exactly.
which is obvious.
You say that it wasn't obvious for player 4.
And it wasn't obvious when I started playing poker. But now I'm good enough to see that that's obvious.
All right.
King 6, I'm on the big tool. Now I make a king. I have the green cards. They are not spades, they are...
Clubs. Could I ask you a few questions which relate to what I would think in this scenario?
Sure, go.
First question is, if you bet all 3 streets, are you going to be confident that you're actually ahead on the river?
Can I assume that I don't bet more than half pots?
Well, you could assume that, yes. But would you feel, let's say you bet flop, one player calls. You bet turn, one player calls. You get to the river. Let's say it's not too scary, like an ace comes or like sometimes board gets very scary. Let's say it's similar. Maybe there's a 10 or 9 that comes, but you bet the third time. Would you feel confident that most of the time the other player must have a queen, or would you get worried at that point that maybe they have king 7, maybe they have king 8, maybe they have king 9, king 10, king jack? If you have ace king, or if you had, let's say you had 2 pair here, you had king queen. If you had 3 of a kind, you had pocket 2, it would be obvious that you could bet 3 times half pot. If you have 2 pair, you're probably most likely a favorite on the river unless the board runs out very scary. But with king 6, how confident would you be to bet 3 times that with each bet, the bet would grow? If you bet half pot, on the turn you would bet something like 5, which means on the river you would bet around 10 chips into a pot of 20. Any comments on that?
I would not be sure that I win it.
Okay, good.
But Norman, I actually think this one went like this. We see the river, we see the end. There was close to an all-in or an all-in. I'm not sure if
Yeah.
I follow that advice, but no, I wouldn't be confident. But I would be scared of 2 things. One, that he has a king 7, as you said, a better kicker. And the other one that I would be scared is that he might have, I don't know, a king and a queen, and he already beats me. I would be scared that he has 2 pairs instead of 1 pair, or that he makes 2 pairs.
Okay, good.
If I make a flush, there are different flushes, so he could also have a flush and still beat me. Is that not true?
It is. I mean, you don't have good cards to make a flush here. You would only make a flush with your 6 of clubs. Now, my second question here is, immediately, are there too many bad turn cards for you? Does your hand immediately need a lot of protection, or is it quite safe as it is that it will stay as top pair most likely until the end of the hand? Are most turn cards safe to you, or most turn cards dangerous for you?
I would say most are safe.
I would agree. Most are safe. King is quite a high pair. Obviously, ace is bad. Flush is a bit dangerous. But everything else, like a 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, all these are quite safe. Based on these 2 things, that we don't really feel that our hand's strong enough to bet all 3 street, and also that our hand is quite safe, that we're not so worried about the turn. What would you think of a plan that we would slow down on the flop, see what your opponents do here, and then if you bet only the turn and the river, the pot would be smaller, bets would be smaller, and I think you would feel more confident betting this hand twice, only turn and river, than 3 times flop, turn, and river. Does that make some sense?
You only want me to bet on the flop, the turn? Is that what you're saying?
No, not at all.
I'm sorry, I didn't get it.
I wanted to not bet on the flop, and if everything seems calm on the flop and no one bets, can we then start to feel more confident about our king 6 being the best hand?
It depends. If the turn is an ace, no. But if yes, we can be more confident, of course. If nobody bets.
On most turn cards, we already established most turn cards are safe for you. Right?
I agree. But I don't know, why would you not want me to bet?
To establish a higher degree of certainty that you have the best hand by seeing what your opponents want to do on this board. If they don't want to bet, then we can have higher degree of belief that they won't have a better king. And if they do want to bet, then we can still carry on by defending, hoping that they will stop betting at some point. It's just that if we start betting, we will go down this road that you said you wouldn't be confident in. The road where you bet flop, turn, bet river, and you're unsure. Now, what I'm trying to establish is a way we could move forward where we would have more certainty in that our hand is best by seeing what happens on the flop and then start betting on the turn once there's less of a chance of someone having a better king.
Okay, I understand. You are scared of my kicker, the 6. And because of that, you think it might be smart to just check and see what they do. Now there's...
Exactly.
But I see two issues.
There's time. One extra thing. I'll hear your two issues. One extra thing. It's not like we're not going to bet our king. What I'm saying is there's time to bet our king. We can bet our king on the turn. We can bet our king on the river. What I don't want to do is start to bet on something which you yourself said isn't really strong enough to bet 3 times. So if it's not strong enough to bet 3 times, why do we want to start with a bet? Why not delay it so it's safer?
Okay, but can I argue
I wanna
the
hear-
opposite?
Yes, of course.
So the thing is, I think I can afford a half bet, a half pot. And
That's not a question. I mean, yes, you can, of course.
and that could get rid of one opponent. So that would be quite nice. The thing is, there's a good chance that somebody has a queen. And then he starts betting. Now, can I make the difference between a queen and a king? Probably not. If he starts betting, I must be scared because he could have that, or he could just have a flush draw. So I think there's a high chance that he might have a flush draw, or he might have a queen, or even sometimes a stupid player with a 2 makes a small bet, sees what happens. I don't know, but there's a good chance that I will have to be reacting to that. That if I go for half pot, I get rid of one player, and then there's still a chance of seeing what he does. Am I first to act in this situation? Yes, I am, if I'm not mistaken. I'm first to act. That puts me in a disadvantage because I cannot see what they do before I have to make my decision. Maybe it's a good idea, but the thing is, I would like the pot to be big with it because there's a very good chance that I have by far the best hand here. I would like the pot to be as good as possible. I'm only scared about some very minor issues like king, queen, or flush draw that realizes and he makes a better flush or a better king. The kicker is the issue. Maybe you're correct.
Would you like to hear my counterpoints?
Sure. If you have some, of course, I would like to hear them.
I think you wanted to say something else. I think you were not finished. Sorry. I don't see you so well as I'm looking at the screen share. I thought you were finished, but you wanted to say something else.
No, the issue is it better to take the offensive, be defensive in this? You're talking about being defensive. I like the offensive situation more in most cases because if I'm offensive, then they might just fold. If I'm defensive, I have to ask myself a lot of questions. Why did they bet? What do they have? That all makes my life a little harder. But I understand your point. You're correct. Kicker the 6 is dangerous. You wanted to add something. Please do.
Yes, the two things you said. One was that you said your hand is comfortable betting half pot. I don't disagree with that. All I'm saying is let's wait with that. Let's not start doing it so early on and growing this pot so big that it will be too big for our king 6, right? I also want this pot bigger. I also want to bet half pot. All I'm saying is we don't have to do it immediately. Let's see a safe turn. The same is true for what you said of getting one player to fold. We can get them to fold on the turn. We don't have to do it immediately. But why would I want to take a defensive stance? Why would I want to see what they do? You are correct what you say that they could also bet a queen, they could also bet a flush draw. That won't be different if you bet. If you bet, they could also call a queen or also call a flush draw. In that sense, you would be in the same sort of darkness. But what is different? They're not always gonna bet. You will have that opportunity to see that sometimes they don't bet at all on the flop. That would be valuable information for you. And you won't see that if you bet and they go along with your bet. You won't see that they possibly wouldn't have wanted to bet themselves. That's one aspect. The second aspect is you will see how big they want to bet. If you bet half pot, you won't see how much they wanted to bet if they go along with your half pot. And that will be a lot of information for you to see if player one wants to bet or player two, if they want to just bet one or two big blinds, or if they want to bet more like 4 or 5. You could see what sizing they use. Thirdly, we would be defending this hand, and they could have a queen or something, but how much pressure would queen really put you under? Would queen bet 3 times? Very unlikely. That queen will some moment slow down. It's not like they bet a queen and now you call the flop that you would be in immediate danger. Most likely a queen won't bet too big. And secondly, if they have a queen, they will likely check on the turn or river and slow down with their queen. These are a few points I would bring up that yes, we want to bet half pot, but maybe not immediately, especially considering our hand isn't strong enough to bet half pot 3 times, which you established. Do we want to fold out one player? Yes, but could we delay it a little bit? Why couldn't we? Then thirdly, the things we will learn from the defensive aspect. We will learn if they want to bet at all. We will learn how big they want to bet. And yes, we won't know for sure what they have, but we won't know for sure what they have also when we are the initiator and attacking them and they keep calling. We won't know then either if they have a queen, a flush draw, or something like king 7. Does that help a little bit or no?
It makes all sense. Thank you a lot for bringing that up and discussing it in detail.
Let's see how it played out. Actually, you go more than half pot bets here. You go to even initiate even more action here. And we get a lot of fold, which I don't think is necessary if a bad cards fold. If someone has pocket 7s, even if someone has ace-5, there's little risk ace-5 poses us. In my mind, it's a bit of a risky approach. In some cases, you get a lot of value from a queen, but that seems all the value you get. Another aspect of delaying that is good. If we delay and a turn is something like a 10, a 9, an 8, a 7, now there's another card we could get value from. Now we could get not just the queen to call, but maybe a 10 will call if someone had a 10 and made a pair with that 10 on the turn. But now betting immediately, that 10 will likely fold. By betting on the turn, there could be more lower cards to get value from. Whereas here on the flop, as 2 is such an unlikely card, the deuce for someone to hold, you're mostly only getting value from a queen, which is not much more likely than someone to have a king. Most kings are better than king 6. A few comments on this flop play here, which I hope you find somewhat interesting.
Norman, I saw, just as you did, that it is dangerous with my kicker. That's why I went not for half pot, but for 2/3 of a pot. I wanted them to have at least 29% to keep playing. I hope that at least one of them would fold. That was my reaction. I had the same idea than you at the beginning, is that king 6 is not the best hand to bet 3 times. Well, I didn't have that idea, but I saw the danger. For me, because of the danger, I did put more pressure on them. You told me now that it would have been better to just check. Okay.
Yes, essentially that I'm worried about your kicker. The best way to proceed with that is to not initiate the larger pot, which we're doing with this. We're making a very big pot now. I would have rather just contained the pot being smaller, see what others would do. But we understand our reasons here. Your bigger bet for going for more folds. What worries me about this is once they don't fold, I already don't like where this hand is. So in my mind, this only leaves us sort of one option. They both fold, we have a relief, but then I feel like if they fold, I really didn't want them to fold because then I was a big favorite because there's not many scary cards. And now when they don't fold, now I'm very worried because they didn't fold to a big bet. Now I'm very worried that they might have, it becomes more likely that we'll repeat. We've discussed this plenty. I think it's important now to see how the next streets developed here.
I agree with your comments. Thank you, Norman. Unfortunately, worst scenario possible happens. They both show a lot of interest in it. Now it gets even worse.
Well, now is a good time to slow down. I mean, if they have a queen, let's say they both have a queen. Hey, we're gonna win this hand most likely. Their queen will be conservative, wanna play it safe, maybe do us one small bet, maybe even check. If they have a queen or they have something lower, then we still have good chances to win it without betting. But we have to be now even worried about two players, a flush, a better king. There's a lot to worry about here. I don't think we wanna invest any more without seeing what they do first. I mean, we already went once on the flop. They didn't go anywhere. I don't expect them both to fold now on the turn. The pot's getting very big. If we bet here, pot will be nearing this all-in territory. That's the last thing our king six wants. I don't think we can make both of them fold here.
I agree, Norman. Thank you. I checked.
Good. I like it. We see now player one also checks and player two doesn't want to check, and now they're betting big. That's very concerning. First instinct, does this look like a queen to you?
No, it does not.
It could be a queen. I'm not saying it's never a queen, but if you had to guess, if someone guessed that you have to choose if it's a king, flush, or a queen, which would be the last one you would guess?
I would think it's a flush or a king.
Okay, good. Now, if it's a flush, we're in deep trouble.
Yes,
If it's a king, would you think it's a better or weaker king than yours?
a better king.
Okay. If it's a queen, well, then he got lucky and we're gonna fold and he wins it with a queen. But we're gonna fold. Why? Because most likely it's not a queen. Does that make sense why I would now fold? Why it's good actually to be in a defensive position, because that allows you to see how strong the other player wants to go. If this player had gone 4 big blinds, would I say to you fold?
No.
No, I wouldn't, exactly. So that's also what I would have liked on the flop, because maybe he would have already on the flop gone very big, and we would have already on the flop realized that this player is making very big bets. But at this point, I know we get odds and stuff like that, but I'm not sure what are good odds for us. I mean, are we going with our flush draw with just our low six? I don't like that. Does a king or a six help us? Also not guaranteed. The odds seem very unclear here. It's not like if your six was the ace of clubs, you would have guaranteed odds. You would have the best flush draw. Or if you had something like, I mean, the ace of clubs would be a strong odd. Even if you had a jack of clubs, that's another, well, first you would have a better king, but you would have a strong club for a flush draw. But with just a six, we didn't even want to be in this pot. It's a limp pot. But now we're in it. I don't want to overplay our king six. This is, well, I've said my piece on this already. It's time to let this one go.
Just one question. I have 9 outs to make a flush, if I'm not mistaken. And maybe
Why do you think that will be good for you?
I don't think it's good, but I just want to go through the math. And I have 2 outs to make a king. That would be 11 out. That will be 22%. I need 29% to call. I should fold, even if I make...
Even then, but here really to really think about this 1 second. What did we think player 2 had?
Most likely a better king.
Will a king help you if he has a better king?
No, it will not.
Okay, good. If he has a flush, will he likely already have a higher club than 6 with his flush?
Probably.
Then will a club help you on the river?
No.
Right?
I understand that my odds are not good.
It could be 0.
Why does it say odds and not outs? Is it just the same word?
No, these are 2 different terms.
Then
odds is just the ratio of what you're asked to risk. It's the ratio of what's in the pot, 24.23. What you're asked to risk, 9.7.
Okay, exact. Thank you for clarifying that.
Outs is just an estimation. Outs are a guess. Outs is not real. Outs is you think king is an out, you think club is an out, but out is just an indicator. Out is not a fact. Out is just something you use as an assisting tool. But outs isn't the Bible. Outs isn't the God's holy word.
But it's useful. It's useful to use.
But it's only useful if you use it correctly.
I agree. Thank you, Norman. Unfortunately, I call, and I don't know why I did that.
That's okay.
Because I just went through the outs. And did I miss any outs? Because normally I would have to check.
I mean, possibly you thought a 6 would be good as well, but even that wouldn't help you.
If I thought a 6 was good, then I could give, 3 outs to the 6?
But even that wouldn't be 29. Even that would be a less.
So 11 plus 3 makes 14. 14 times 2 would be 28. Now I would be very close to the 29%.
But you would still be on a losing side, which why go with a 1% loss? What's the point?
Okay, now we get a queen.
Well, what did we think that it could have on the turn? A flush, we lose to. A better king, we lose to. And sometimes if player 2 is a big fish, a queen. Now we also lose to a queen. Now there's no hand we would win against.
Check, he goes all in. I fold. Okay, so I could have saved some money.
The difference between you and player 4. What's the difference between you and player 4? Even though you made some mistakes this hand, you were still able to have some limitation to your mistakes. You didn't ruin your whole tournament with this hand.
Yes.
That's already a big difference. We could say you made a 9 big blind mistake, possibly the flop bet also. Maybe 12 big blind mistake. Player 4 did a 70 big blind mistake. This river is actually, why you're doing better than your average opponent. I think we've looked at, even though you're slightly below break even, as you say it, your opponents are doing even worse than that on average. I would say this river is a good sign of things you're doing well. And what you should really meditate on, my last summary of these hands.
Can I close the table, Norman?
Sure, yes.
Because I would like to see you.
The last thing I would ask you to really meditate on is once you think about what the opponent has, take that into account when calculating your outs, okay? When we think the opponent might have a better king or might have a flush, then we shouldn't now think that a king is an out for us or a club is an out for us. The same is true in that hand where there was queen on the board and we were imagining ace 5 and thinking about if ace would be an out there. But it wouldn't be an out if we think the opponent with a high likelihood has a queen. Then there's no out. The ace won't help against 3 of a kind queen. That's something I would propose to you as an exercise, that you think about the most likely hand the opponent has in that scenario, and you take that as a basis for your outs. If you think they're on a better king, then a king won't be an out for you, as that would still keep their king stronger. Is that understandable? Does that sound like something you could do, practice?
I do it already to a certain degree, but I can improve. Norman, I'm really impressed on how much energy you have and how deep you can go into this subject and how interested you are in them over such an extended period of time. But the thing is also, you have a higher level at what you talk about. For you, it's easier. But for me, every time I have to do a real effort to follow your train of thought, because it is not as natural than for you. But anyways, it was awesome. I really enjoyed our lesson. It was great. We talked about some really important subjects. It's by far the best discussion that I have this week, or maybe even this month. Maybe not this month, because I see you next week again. It will be just as good as today. But it was awesome. Thank you, Norman. Any final thought?
I can't promise I'm energetic every time. Not every time I have a good day, I have bad days. I'm sure you remember some times where I've been not enthusiastic, but also, yes, thank you. I mean, you were also with me all this way and shared your views and thought about these things and shared your thoughts with trading, investing, and all these other topics we talked about. Sometimes I like to think that energy is something that's created between people. It takes two people in this way where for both to feel some sort of energetic vibe. You did a lot to make this a good lesson. I'm also looking forward to seeing you again next week. Okay?
Awesome, Norman. I'm looking forward to see you next week. Thanks a lot for everything, Norman. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Au revoir.